Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. It is always great to have funny comedian, my friend, and also one of our regular crypto guests, Rosie Tran, on the show. Hey, Rosie. How's everything going?
Excited to be here. Good. I actually took a Twitter hiatus this morning because of all the crazy Elizabeth Warren stuff. I was getting too stressed out. I'm pretty good with social media, but I actually got too stressed out because the misinformation that was flying was crazy, and I felt the need to defend it. And I just was like, you know what, I'm going to take a break because I need some mental sanity. But the central banker lies are being spread, and people are believing them, apparently.
So let's talk about that. We're going to get into El Salvador in a second, in a little bit, but let's talk about Liz Warren, who I was just watching part of her video, and she's spewing all of this nonsense that we've already talked about and we've already debunked. I've debunked it. You've debunked it. I mean, everyone in the crypto space.
Okay, but not just that. The video that the clip that she's playing, there's another clip from it where she's talking to an expert who is a Harvard economist about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And guess who funds him, Graham? I just want you to take a big guess.
Oh, let me think. Wow. Is it, I don't know, Goldman Sachs or...
It wasn't Goldman Sachs, but he has it in his actually Twitter handle. I'll find it and send it to you. But he is actually funded, of course, by Wall Street and the big banks. And so, you know, when people, you would think a Harvard economist would be, a source from academia, would be giving neutral and information based on facts. But he's funded. He's funded by the banks. It's in his Twitter handle, and he's part of the central banking system. So Elizabeth Warren is getting her information from someone who supports the old legacy system. And again, when we want to talk about crime and money laundering, the US dollar is number one, still above cryptocurrency.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's Liz Warren is such a fake progressive. We saw that in the primary. I mean, she's like fake. She's a fake progressive, and that whole, all of her nonsense. I'm deliberately trying to not shake Bernie's hand, like making that whole stunt. And of course she lost, and and Biden gave her nothing in his cabinet, which is hilarious. She is this fake fighter for the people and taking on the big banks. I mean, most notably, we could go back to 2017 when there was these clips of her, reading the riot act to the head of Wells Fargo, right? When Wells Fargo was doing those scams, opening fake accounts, that guy left with $120 million severance plan. Yeah. She didn't prosecute him. She didn't do a damn thing. She just gave him a stern talking to. So this is her sort of role as this imposter to let people believe, well, Liz Warren, she's fighting for us. So she says Bitcoin's a fraud. I really believe it. And it's like, it's all that crap we've talked about. It's used for money laundering and fraud. And it's like, oh, the US dollar, no one's ever used it for bad things. It's
again, I don't know if you know this, Graham. She used to be a Republican. Yep. She switched to the Democratic Party. So we know that she's already, flip-flopped. She started as a Republican. And now apparently she's in bed with the big banks because her crypto expert, again, is funded by Wall Street and the big banks. So how is that a crypto expert? Are you talking to people in the cryptocurrency community? You're not, because if you spoke to anyone in the cryptocurrency community, you would know that saying that Bitcoin is bad for the environment is, one of the biggest lies. It's actually, now they're going towards clean miners. The technology is evolving as we speak into renewable miners, into clean miners, into we know that Bitcoin and crypto miners lean towards renewable energy because you can mine anywhere, and a lot of times wind and solar energy is lost in long distance. So it leans towards renewable energy. So we know about all these things, and they keep feeding the lies because they want you. They're scared. They're scared that they're going to lose that market share, and they're quickly losing that market share.
Yeah. I mean, we know who she works for. I mean, she got funding for her presidential campaign from Wall Street. And she says this and it's a bad investment. Like, they're pump and dump schemes, and like
Crypto and Bitcoin is the best performing asset class of the past 20 years, but it's a scam. So
and there's no scams in Wall Street. Wall Street is so above board. It's just like I mean, I guess she's just preying on the uninformed.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
That's what she's doing. That's what the corporate media does, is they prey upon the uninformed and say some things and get some buzzwords and get some quick clips and go. And so they're obviously afraid of it because it's going to be the world's reserve currency and they're going to lose all their power. And then she loses her power.
That is the most awesome thing about the decentralized system, is that the governments can't have power anymore the way that they have now. And so the corporations and governments cannot be in bed because the people own the money, And so that is really, really scary to the power structures, Graham. And again, we've talked about this before. What about the petrodollar, right? Our dollar is literally based on trading petroleum and on the blood of, all these people. So, when they say it's bad for the environment, well, what about, you mentioned it, what about the military, one of the biggest polluters across the world?
The United States military is the number one polluter in the world. And Liz Warren she voted to give Trump military budget increases when he was president. And she'll do it for Biden as well. So it's astounding to me that they can say this crap with a straight face, just bold-faced lie about Bitcoin, and it's bad for the environment.
And not just that, I'm not delusional. There are some Bitcoin miners that are still, heavily using electricity and stuff like that. But the fact is, this doesn't compare to the petrodollar and how dirty it is. This doesn't compare to the entire banking system and how dirty it is. This doesn't compare to the military industrial complex and how dirty that is. And not just that, but this is a technology that can lift over 1 billion people out of poverty, they're estimating. And so don't you think that you would want to lift, if you're a progressive, you would want to lift 1 billion people out of poverty? Not when it means that you're losing power.
Yeah. And that's the thing that these Liz Warren and the Bill Maher's of the world, they don't care, they don't think about, or they don't even take the time to research of all of the, as you and I have talked about the first time you came on my show a year ago, you talked about the 2.5 billion people on the planet that are unbanked.
Exactly.
And Bitcoin is going to pull them out of poverty. I mean, El Salvador it's going to pull there's 70% of El Salvadorians don't have access to banking and financial tools, and now they will.
Or they have access to banking and financial tools, but they're heavily punished for being poor. So they're being charged 5%, 10% interest on their own money, again, just to make transactions, because the poor in this world are unfortunately punished.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to like a bank manager years ago who basically said, if you've got less than $1,000 in our bank, we don't want you here. And we're going to hit you with fees and crap because there's no upside for us. So that's who Liz Warren is fighting for, is the big bank. She's not fighting for working class people. And all this stuff has been roundly debunked, like time and time again. And all these preposterous claims, that's bad, it uses all this energy. All right, then we should all get rid of our computers and smartphones, Liz. Like, you remember when you were taking those dumb selfies? You didn't even know what a selfie was? Like during your failed campaign? It's so egregious.
It's so egregious, and it's really sad because, again, one of the reasons I took a little miniature Twitter break is because I was having people tweet at me just constant misinformation. And, I'm running my podcast, I'm doing other things, educating people, and I don't have time to respond to every, Tom, Dick, and Harry that's misinformed. But they're really affecting people because people believe this stuff. A lot of people do believe this stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that they're not, that crypto is too complicated for them to understand. So they see these people and they say, I trust Liz Warren. I like her. She's a progressive and she wouldn't steer me wrong. And unfortunately, once you dig a little bit deeper and look under the cover, she's bought and paid by Wall Street.
Oh, bought and paid for. I mean, like just 100%. I mean, and this
is how we know, because we have a progressive, again, I'm putting quotations, president, and we have progressives in charge of the government right now and what policies are being pushed forward. I'm not sure if you've seen the $6 trillion bill Biden put forth, but I didn't see universal health care in there. I didn't see UBI. I didn't see any loan forgiveness or anything. And I did see money going towards Israel for the military industrial complex over there. I did see, I don't know, many people don't read those things. And the progressives have control of everything. And the policies that they're pushing through are beyond insane.
It is madness. I mean, like literally Biden on his first day of office through executive order could have given us Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness. I mean, he could have just done that with the swoop of a pen and won't do that. And then, like you say, there's these, multiple $1 trillion stimulus that all, again, Israel's still going to get $3 billion a year. So we're giving them money to then buy our weapons to then bomb the shit out of poor Palestinians and not be held accountable. And and don't
forget about the $400 a year that comes out of every United States family to pay the sugar lobby. I mean, the sugar industry. So every taxpayer pays about $400 a year in subsidies to the sugar industry to make us fat.
It's unreal. And again, Bitcoin, the reason they're so threatened by it is because Bitcoin empowers people. Bitcoin,
it does. It's a massive wealth transfer to the everyday little guy, and the banks are horrified.
Yeah, they're very horrified, and that's why you've got Liz Warren. It's just unbelievable. She does this whole thing, and just goes, "It's a bad investment." I'm just like, it's literally like 20. I put this out there when Bill Maher said his nonsense last month that. There was articles saying in the year 2000 saying the internet's probably going away. Like websites, it's a fad and they're not going to last anymore. And just like,
it's for pornographers.
Right. It's just, that's all the internet is now, is just for spam and pornographers. And it's just like, it's so crazy. Every time there's a drug bust and they always show all the drugs on the table and the guns, and then there's always stacks of American dollars. Like,
exactly. And actually, the awesome thing about Bitcoin and crypto is that the decentralized ledger. So one of the ways that they were able to track this hack money was because everything's transparent, and nobody talks about that. And it's because they don't want the money to be transparent. I can't bribe a politician if it's on a public ledger.
Yeah, exactly. The hackers were dumb. They left their info. They didn't. So everybody that's how they tracked them. It's like, that's the upside of Bitcoin. We know, and the blockchain, we all see it. We all have access to it. They don't want, you're absolutely right. They don't want transparency because, if I try to give money to a corrupt politician like Liz Warren and I use my Bitcoin wallet and I send her and people can see, oh, wow, we know this wallet.
Yeah, it'll be eventually traced back. Yeah.
It'll be eventually traced back. And just like we're going to find out that Elon Musk has been buying Bitcoin this whole time.
But Graham, you have to ask yourself, why are the politicians against a system of transparency? I mean, any person, like when you ask that question, you're like, what are they hiding? Why are they against a system of transparency, a public system where everyone has to be held accountable? Don't you think that's something progressives would want, quote unquote, progressive politicians, transparency?
Yeah, well, it shows you A, they don't want it, and B, they're not progressive. It's just like a bumper sticker. They're the progressives in the Democratic Party are the coexist sticker on the Prius that flips you off in traffic. Is basically who they are. So it's preposterous, like, to listen to this, but there's enough people that'll go, oh boy, I don't know much about it. You talk to somebody, and I'm sure you do too, talk to people, friends, family who don't know that much about it. And they hear these little clips and they're like, oh, it's bad. It's a scam. And they keep trying to do it. But the thing that's interesting is, I feel like they've been trying to manipulate the price down to below 25,000 so they can buy up even more of it. And it just can't, because there's too many people like you and I who have been paying more attention now. I've been paying attention for a year now. You've been paying attention for several years. And, the price goes down and it's like, oh, buy the dip. And then there's no way that the Liz Warren video that came out, yesterday or this morning or something like that?
It was yesterday or this morning.
It was yesterday. Weird that came right after El Salvador announces it's going to make Bitcoin legal tender.
Not just El Salvador, multiple South American countries have said that they are open to crypto, open to Bitcoin. El Salvador actually started the domino block because I believe up to 5 or 6 countries are now open, looking into it, excited about it. And actually, Graham, these are the countries that have the most to gain. They have had really corrupt puppet politicians that were put in place by guess who? The U.S. government.
Good old US of A.
Good old US of A. And the United States of America was using our influence and debt to control those puppet governments by saying, hey, we'll loan you money, but you have to play by our rules, and our rules are you have to enslave your people and all these other things. And a lot of those people have pride in their country. The president of El Salvador is proud to be El Salvadoran, and they're done with being under the United States' thumb and control. And so crypto is a way for them to take control of their currency finally and have some independence. And the U.S. does not like that.
No, they do not. And that's why Liz Warren did that literally less than 24 hours after El Salvador announced that.
Because the news headlines were repressed. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh yeah, that we had to find out. It wasn't in regular news. We all found out. I mean, I found out about it on social media. No one like CNN wasn't talking about it or anyone like that, because the big banks buy a lot of ad time on the corporate media, and that's how politicians like Liz Warren are allowed to stay in existence.
And don't you think, Graham, that an entire country taking on Bitcoin as a legal tender would be major front page news?
I would think it would be. But you see how sophisticated the misinformation campaign is.
Yes.
So El Salvador announces this, and they do it. It's a super majority. It was 62 out of 84 people. They only needed 43 votes, and they got 62. Right. So they won that 62 to 22. That was a super majority they got. And this is groundbreaking, revolutionary news. So the misinformation campaign works 2 ways. 1, they just don't cover it. They act like it didn't happen. 2, then Liz Warren suddenly comes out to give this big speech. The Hills got it. It's tweeted all over the place. Like, the president of El Salvador came out to say, I mean, he did it publicly. He said he was on this like Bitcoin forum, and he came in and started talking to people on it. And because I was watching the replay of it on this show, Altcoin Daily, they played it last night, and he said, this is how we're going to do this. And what he pointed out is that now it's required. That's the big, because right now, if you're running a business, and this is in El Salvador or America or anyway, and you want to accept Bitcoin, that's your choice, but you're not required to do it. You are required by law to accept US dollars, right? If you're in El Salvador prior to this bill, you are required by law to take El Salvadorian money, which I think they use the US dollar anyway. But like, now they are required by law. Every single business, car wash, McDonald's, selling car, wherever, man, used car salesmen, malls, they have to accept Bitcoin. And
that is like one of the biggest news is, I think, from in the crypto space. It's legitimizing. You can't say it's a scam if a country is using it as legal tender. Do you say the peso is a scam? Do you say the dong or the yen or scams? No.
Well, this is the thing why you see how sophisticated the propaganda is. That's why the crux of Liz Warren's lies were it's bad drug money. Well, that feeds into all the drug cartels in Central and South America. So now they're going to push this. El Salvador's some Bitcoin drug cartel country now. They're all corrupt, and good old white America, keep your money safe with the US dollar. Don't do that drug cartel, Latin money thing down there with Bitcoin. That's the vibe. It's part of the, it's part of just white colonialism.
It's so sad because I think the countries that are going to have more Bitcoin and crypto adoption, mainstream adoption, are actually countries with weaker currency, because they've seen the corruption. Turkey has seen it, Venezuela has seen it, and they know what can happen when you give the central banks too much power. They will inflate your currency into oblivion until you're in indentured servitude. And unfortunately, that's what Joe Biden and Trump are doing. Trump in the past and Joe Biden now, is that they are just printing and printing. They're devaluing and they're lying. The official government numbers say inflation is at 2%, I believe, even though they printed more money in the last 6 months than they've printed in the last 11 years, Graham. And I'm not an economist, but that sounds like a little something fishy is happening.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see gas in California is about $4.25 a gallon right now. So don't tell me there's no inflation. The costs of goods are all going up. But to get back to your point of the IMF has been, the IMF is basically
it's a mob organization.
It is a bank mob. I mean, they just like a mob guy would come to your business and say, "Oh, pay me for protection," and then when you don't, they burn your business down. The IMF leans on these countries all the time. We saw this when the IMF threatened Ecuador to withhold a $500 million loan unless they gave up Julian Assange, what they eventually did. I mean, this is how they do it. And I think El Salvador, I don't know that much about this president, but he seems like a younger guy. He seems like he wants to empower his citizens. And now they can't be.
They don't want that. They don't want empowered citizens. They want Africa poor. They want South America poor, because then you are dependent on the Western monetary system. You're dependent on the big banks. You're dependent on, they make massive amounts of interest off of the poor. In fact, they probably make more interest off the poor than the wealthy. When you look at these transaction fees that they're charging poor people, and like you said, the bank manager you spoke to, if you're poor, we're just going to, you're a risk to us, and we're just going to charge you into oblivion because we really don't care about you.
Yeah. And what this does is El Salvador passing this bill overwhelmingly, right?
Yes.
And it goes into effect in 90 days. So by September, El Salvador and what it's going to do, and one of the things he said, and is it's going to spurn innovation, because that's part of it too. When everybody's just barely working to get by, nobody's innovating anything. It's like America doesn't innovate anymore. We're not leading the world in any of the good categories. We lead the world in handgun deaths and people dying because they don't have health insurance. And we have the worst infant mortality rate, or the highest infant mortality rate of any industrialized nation. The only nations that are like worse than us in these bad categories are like developing or third world countries. I mean, and so El Salvador is going to become one of these countries that is going to lead the way. And as you've already stated, it's a matter of time. It's the dominoes. I mean, we're going to see Guatemala, Costa Rica. I mean, we're going to see all these countries just go. Venezuela is going to go, we're done, because we've been sanctioning the shit out of them because they have #1 oil reserves in the world. All these countries are going to go.
We use our banking system to punish people that don't want to play our game. And our game is rich white people and rich, elitists basically putting their foot on everyone else's neck. And the scary thing, Graham, is when you talk about the mainstream media controlling the narrative, there was news stories all over the place when China banned Bitcoin earlier this month. But when El Salvador embraces Bitcoin, there's absolutely no news whatsoever. If you look at the crypto news websites on the internet compared to the mainstream news websites coverage of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, the stories from the mainstream media are always fear, it's going to crash, you're going to lose all your money, it's a scam, money laundering. And when you look at cryptocurrency alternative news, what you see is, hey, this is going to lift people out of poverty. It's a decentralized system. It's transparent. It's going to help people be more in control of their finances, less fees. And it's just a completely different, narrative.
I think that the El Salvador thing really kind of proves a point that Max Kaiser said when he was on my show about a month or so ago. He said, you can't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. And he says, it's just, these countries are going to try to fight it all they want. Like America's going to try to fight it. China's going to try to fight it. But eventually you can't stop this thing, because it was, whoever Satoshi was, person or persons created this thing. It's genius. You can't shut it down. And so now that there's countries like El Salvador going, we're going to accept this. So here's what's going to happen too. I mean, this was already starting before the pandemic in terms of countries were doing digital nomad visas. This has been around for about 5-10 years, a lot of countries, because people are working more remotely. Well, that got ramped up during the pandemic. I mean, Barbados was like, come live here. Well, you can get a 12-month visa, just work remotely, because they realized there's no tourists coming, but remote workers actually infuse money into an economy. They don't take any local jobs. They just bring money into that economy. Well, this is going to, Bitcoin is, El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. Think about all these Bitcoin people like you, me, all the Bitcoin whales out there are going to go, well, maybe I should move to El Salvador because they're going to be friendly to me. They're going to take care of me. I'm not going to get hit with a bunch of taxes, and they're going to welcome my Bitcoin and welcome cryptocurrency. And you're going to see that country is going to become not just a tourist haven, but a tech haven, an innovation haven. I mean, it's going to be one of these like hubs. Like
I think the politicians really don't understand what's happening. It's like there's billions of people that have cell phones now. You could have your entire crypto wallet, in your pocket, Graham, on your phone. And even if I kill you, even if I murder you, I cannot break into that crypto wallet without your keys and your code. And so you're going to be able to go anywhere, and you don't have to be, stuck under a repressive country, or if, another Trump happens, you don't have to stay here and be subjected to that. You can move to a country that's friendlier, more peaceful, doesn't use their money for the military industrial complex. I know Costa Rica doesn't have a standing army, and there's other countries like that that aren't using their, that have healthcare because they're not using 40% of the budget on the military.
It's insane. I mean, and for Liz Warren to say all that stuff, just like she's abandoning the fact that we outspend the next 10 countries combined on military. On a domestic level, you've got police departments like the LAPD, which gets 54% of the city of Los Angeles's operating budget. 54%. They get $3.1 billion. And yet, boy, what do we do with all these homeless people? We've got new fancy apartment complexes on every goddamn street corner in LA for $3,000 to $5,000 one bedrooms that no one can afford, but we can't seem to do anything about the tent cities. But, LAPD gets a new tank, a new rubber bullets, new armor, new robot dog.
They actually have military grade equipment now. So that's another scary thing, is the militarization of the police forces, is that they have, this is not something that happened 20, 30 years ago. I mean, now they have military grade equipment to abuse protesters with. So it's kind of scary. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like crazy.
Well, who wants to, because we're in a country we don't want to live in anymore. I mean, if I told you there's some country in Central America where militarized police, no health care, people die, they're living on the streets, everyone's got a gun, a bunch of people attack the Capitol building in January, there's handgun deaths every year, people die because they don't, only the rich have health care, you'd go, I don't want to live in that country. There's no way you'd want to go to that country. There's a mass shooting every day. The cops can kill you indiscriminately. You'd say, I don't want to visit. I don't even want to visit that country. Like, who would want to visit, let alone live in America with these conditions? And yet we think we're so much better than everybody. And it's like, you've got these out of touch, old, rich, white people like Liz Warren spewing this bullshit.
I actually do like Liz Warren, and I was the little speech she gave about crypto completely changed my mind about her. I did a lot of research actually before. I didn't even know you were going to talk about her tonight, but I did a lot of research, and that's when I found out that her crypto expert was bought by Wall Street. And I was very disappointed by that. I was excited as a woman and a feminist when she ran, that, a woman's running, and, to see actually the misinformation. I mean, I don't even think she spoke to one person in the crypto field, because that could have easily been debunked by talking to one person, actual expert in the crypto field.
Yeah. All she had to do is just find one crypto, go talk to Michael Saylor, go talk to Max Kaiser, someone who's worked in finance for decades, understands the financial markets better than we ever will, and truly understands Bitcoin and how revolutionary it's going to be. But she doesn't want to do that. And this is the thing, because America has such a long history of a white patriarchy and genocide and racism, it's easy for people to get tricked by, here's a woman, yay, woman running for Kamala Harris, woman of color. She's locked up 100,000 black men for smoking plants. I mean, exactly. She could have put Steve Mnuchin in jail and didn't. And he donated to her attorney general campaign and her senatorial campaign. And then she voted to approve him when she was in the Senate to be in Trump's cabinet. So this whole system is corrupt. So all this, diversity and representation is important, but
they're just replacing the old white men with women's suits on.
Yeah, exactly. It's
And
just, oh, now women and people of color can be as corrupt as old white guys. Isn't it? Hooray. Don't you wish you can be rich, Rosie? So now you can oppress the poor like a white guy can? Isn't that great? Like,
the crazy thing is, I think last time I was on the podcast when we were talking about Elon Musk, you did a quick Google search on is Bitcoin bad for the environment? And I think the first 3 or 4 Googles that came up were like legitimate sources debunking it.
yeah.
And so it's like, I'm not sure like if Elizabeth Warren even like looked on Google, like did she even check Google before just, I think that's actually like extremely unethical. Like I'm making fun of it, but I think that's actually extremely unethical to not even do a quick Google search before you talk on a topic. You're a public figure. You're, listened to by millions. She has hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of people follow her and trust her opinion. And the fact that she didn't even do a quick Google search and like read 1 or 2 articles on the opposing viewpoint just shows, I was really disappointed by her speech. I really was. And I'm really excited about what El Salvador is doing because the dominoes are falling, Graham. Multiple countries in South America are saying that they're going to follow along. They're open to it. And, that means that all those people are going to have to, all those businesses in that country are going to have to go towards Bitcoin adoption and crypto adoption. And all those people in the country are going to be interested in growing in that market space. So I just really want people to do their research. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to be pro Bitcoin, you have to be pro crypto, but at least do a basic Google search and say, hey, is this actually bad for the environment? And the answer is no. It's not as bad as they're making it seem to be. And 2, again, the petrodollar, the military, look at all of these things that are polluting 20,000 times more than Bitcoin and no one says anything.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Graham Elwood. You are watching The Political Vigilante. I'm here with comedian and friend and Bitcoin and crypto enthusiast, Rosie Tran. We were just talking about, first of all, we were talking about how Elizabeth Warren just spewed a bunch of nonsense. And then we're talking about the significance of El Salvador making Bitcoin its legal tender. I always want to ask, I know a lot of people in the crypto space don't want to get into sort of like crystal ball, but so last time we had, obviously this last month, we've seen Elon Musk and some other people, even the Chinese government, are trying to sort of nosedive the price. We know.
I think they're doing it on purpose to buy more, actually, because China has been already proven to have the largest amount of crypto miners in the world. Yes, and the government owns those crypto miners.
The government owns the crypto mines. They have their own, central digital currency that they're putting out there, the digital yuan, and they're buying more, and everyone's realizing these countries are realizing. Other than America. This is, and it needs to be, every country's going, oh my God, we should make this our reserve currency. Like this, we should be backed by this digital Bitcoin now when they realize what it is. But I want to talk to you because obviously we were just saying that there's already Central American countries that are talking about looking into doing what El Salvador just did. And El Salvador just passed it with a supermajority, and it will go into effect in 90 days. So by September, El Salvador is going to accept Bitcoin as legal tender, which is amazing. So how do you, because I think this manipulation, as we talked about when you were on last month, they're buying the price up and eventually Bitcoin's going to go back up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Graham Elwood. You are watching The Political Vigilante. I'm here with comedian and friend and Bitcoin and crypto enthusiast, Rosie Tran. We were just talking about, first of all, we were talking about how Elizabeth Warren just spewed a bunch of nonsense. And then we're talking about the significance of El Salvador making Bitcoin its legal tender. I always want to ask, I know a lot of people in the crypto space don't want to get into sort of like crystal ball, but so last time we had, obviously this last month, we've seen Elon Musk and some other people, even the Chinese government, are trying to sort of nosedive the price. We know.
I think they're doing it on purpose to buy more, actually, because China has been already proven to have the largest amount of crypto miners in the world. Yes, and the government owns those crypto miners.
The government owns the crypto mines. They have their own, central digital currency that they're putting out there, the digital yuan. And they're buying more, and everyone's realizing these countries are realizing, other than America. This is, and it needs to be, every country's going, oh my God, we should make this our reserve currency. you know, like this, we should be backed by this digital Bitcoin now that when they realize what it is. But I want to talk to you because obviously we were just saying that there's already Central American countries that are talking about looking into doing what El Salvador just did. And El Salvador just passed it with a supermajority, and it will go into effect in 90 days. So by September, El Salvador is going to accept Bitcoin as legal tender, which is amazing. So how do you, because I think this manipulation, as we talked about when you were on last month, it's they're buying the price up, and eventually Bitcoin's going to go back up.
Yes.
How do you see the El Salvador, because that's such a piece of good news in the middle of this sort of like 3-week kind of dark cloud a little bit. And I haven't sold any. I've bought some during this dip. I haven't sold.
Yeah, I would not sell. It's a long-term hold asset.
Yeah.
As volatile as it is, you know, again, I think a lot of people got really excited and a bunch of newbies jumped in because Elon Musk was talking a lot about it, but the fundamentals haven't changed, and nothing has changed about it. And that it's a decentralized, solid, deflationary currency. So all of that, none of that has changed. And
yeah, I was even watching a show where they again, because it's on the blockchain, they can see that it was a lot of newer whales or newer
wallets
Bitcoin,
or whatever. Yeah.
newer wallets buying newer coins. Like they bought in when Bitcoin was at 20, 25 grand. And when it went up to 60, they were like, oh, we're on. And then when it started to come down, they're like, I'm selling it at 35 and I'm pulling out. And the Elon Musks of the world, and probably the Chinese government and other people like that and other big hedge funds are going, oh, good. Scare these weak hands out and we'll scoop it up because we know there's only going to be 21 million of them. But I really want to get your take on, we've talked a little bit about it, but how do you see this now in the next, 12 months, 24, 36 months, and the next 5 years and beyond, especially like with what El Salvador just did? Where do you see
So
not just America, but the world?
hashtag not financial advice.
Yeah, I know we're not. Neither one of us are paid financial. We're not trained financial advisor. We're just two comedians that are really into crypto,
entertainment purposes only.
But what do you think?
So I really think, I know this sounds absolutely crazy to some people, but I really see the case for $1 million Bitcoin, and $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 Ethereum, I'm very bullish on Tezos as well because I think it's a very fast smart contract technology. And the reason I say that, so first of all, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to go to zero, crypto's going to go to zero, and everyone's going to lose all their money." That's actually impossible, and I can say that with all certainty. And the reason I can say that it's impossible is because, one, it's decentralized. So if any country bans it or something bad happens, like in China, people can use the VPN or technology to move that crypto or purchase it from a different location. So that is already never going to happen. Second of all, there's something called network effects. So it's kind of like Facebook. It's like once you get on Facebook, all of your friends on Facebook, you can't like get all of your friends off Facebook. It's harder to get people out of something than into something, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so this is a network effect. And so everyone that watches this podcast is going to be informed and get, maybe 1 or 2 people will get interested and they'll get really into crypto. And once they realize what it is, then those people tell other people and those people tell other people. And maybe, 10 people will say, oh, it's a scam, it's stupid, but you can't stop that network effect. And that network effect is magnified by the fact that we have the internet now. So the internet, and so that's 7.5 billion people that have potential to invest or learn about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So I can say with 100% certainty that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are not going to go to zero. Maybe there's a couple scam coins that might end up going to zero, or maybe there's a couple altcoin projects that fail because that's what they are, they're projects. And so they try to maybe make the next Bitcoin or make the next whatever, and they fail. And so that's not really it going to zero. That's just the project failing. But Bitcoin, I think because it has so much momentum and it's such a revolutionary technology, I can say with 100% certainty that there's no chance it will ever go to zero. Again, there's even scam coins that I know of that have crashed and burned and they're still not at zero. So that would mean that every single person in the entire world that is into Bitcoin would have to completely give up on it for it to go to zero. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, people say stuff like, yeah, but what what if there's an electromagnetic pulse and everything goes down? I go, we're going to have bigger problems than like,
yes.
You're not going to have access to your regular bank. You're not going to have access to your new car with Apple CarPlay. You're going to have nothing. Like you're going to, the lights are going to, and there's not going to be not stoplights. Like the power grid's going to go down. It's
so yes. If a meteor comes and a meteor that, wiped out the dinosaurs comes and explodes on Earth, yes, Bitcoin will not survive, but neither will anything else. So it won't matter.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be worried about where your cold wallet is if the meteor comes or there's no power and we've been plunged into the dark ages. I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, I keep hearing this too, and that's the other thing. Like, people are obviously Elon Musk still has sway. He can still manipulate the markets, but it feels like more people are waking up. I mean, a lot of the crypto shows that I watch 4 or 5 months ago, I was a little like, oh, because they kept going, Elon Musk is amazing. And they were a little younger or whatever. And they're like, he's so great. He's so great. I go, no, he's not. He's a billionaire. He's awful. He's an awful person. Yeah, his cars are cool, but he's awful. Just wait. And he did it. And they're all waking up to the fact that he's awful and he's a bad person.
Well, there was also, by the way, some talk that he might have been pressured by the U.S. government because he gets a lot of subsidies from the U.S. government for Tesla and for SpaceX. I'm not sure if you've ever talked about that, but he gets millions and millions of dollars in government subsidies for his programs, for his company. And so there was some pressure that BlackRock and other investors were telling him to lay off crypto because they're not in the crypto space and they see it as a threat to their business model. And so there was some talk, again, I don't know if this is a fact, but some talk that the U.S. government threatened to take away some of his green energy subsidies if he kept pushing Bitcoin.
Well, that makes me mad on so many other levels. First of all, why is the richest guy in the face of the earth getting our tax money to subsidize his fucking projects? Pay for it himself. This is a guy that could end homelessness overnight if he wanted to just put every homeless person in a home with health care. And he could
Graham, because he wants to go to Mars.
Yeah. Well, I'll shoot that thing out of the sky before I let that guy go to Mars.
Just like Jeff Bezos' yacht that needed a yacht.
Oh yeah, it's a yacht. I mean, you do need a support. I mean, to be honest, you do need a yacht for your yacht. I mean, if you are going to ride around in one yacht, Rosie, without a support yacht, you are a little bit of an animal. I hate to be so judgmental, but
hashtag real world problems.
Yes. No support yachts is probably the most offensive thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's literally like drinking your own urine, but we're not here to talk about yachts. It is, these people are offensive. The fact that they're getting government subsidies, which to all of our viewers, that means your tax dollars are going to pay for a billionaire to build rocket ships so other billionaires can leave this planet after they've ruined it. So, Elon Musk, if the government did pressure him, whatever, it just shows the whole system is corrupt, and
I just want everyone to know that this is how revolutionary Bitcoin and crypto is. The US government is really scared. Wall Street is really scared to the point where they're threatening billionaires. So I just think that it's really important that people do their research because so many people will parrot talking points from Elizabeth Warren. So many people will parrot talking points I've heard on MSNBC or other, websites from the Nazarians or, whoever's on there, the talking heads that are on there that are not financially sound people. They're financial experts on MSNBC, but I mean, they're really not. If you listen to what they're saying, they're just hyping up Wall Street and they're not really giving any financial know-how or advice.
Which is what they do. I mean, that's what they do. They push Wall Street because Wall Street, controls the media. It controls both political parties. Now, I mean, that's something I've been following on this show for a while. It controls Harvard and big educational institutions like that because, the Harvard Foundation is worth billions of dollars. And so they have a lot of influence and, they pay people on the corporate media and people like Liz Warren to spew their nonsense because they're the ruling elites.
And the Ivy League colleges also get subsidies because they're educational, even though they're statistically shown to only educate the very top elite wealthiest people. They still get government subsidies. So again, your tax dollars and my tax dollars to send, Wilfred III, John Rothschild III to Harvard is they're taking our money to do that. And that's just criminal. That's criminal.
Yeah. It's
You know,
all the more
I went
reason.
to state school.
Yeah, so did I. And I went to public school and I went to state college. So it's
What's
like,
that? Me too.
yeah, hooray. I mean, we're not part of the 1%. And I think the thing I always tell people on this show is I go, do your own research, and come to your own conclusion, and, you know, don't invest money you feel unsafe about. The number I hear is 5 to 10% of your assets. So literally, if you got $500 in savings, buy $50 in Bitcoin and just hang
Exactly.
on to it, you
And
know,
just hang on
and
to it.
it'll keep going up because the ruling, they can't change it. And I always try to make, and this is another, God, there's another thing about Liz Warren, just drives, it was just as dumb as the Bill Maher thing. She's like, Dogecoin, Bitcoin. They're not, it's insane when people say they don't, that shows me that it's like saying when the internet first came out, there's these crazy websites with Nigerian lottery and Amazon and the DMV, and it's all crazy websites. It's like, no, each one is different. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So,
the biggest coin that people always quote is the Come Rocket coin or whatever.
right.
And it's like, okay, that one of these coins is a silly meme coin, and the other coin could revolutionize the entire financial system for the poor and middle class.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the internet. You can go to, you know, research libraries, and it's the most amazing research tool on the planet. And then you can also get porn on it. So should we get rid of the internet? I mean, like, there's bad actors, there's child pornography, there's all awful. There's the dark web, there's just evil shit on the internet. So should we shut it all down? And also, Liz Warren, do you know how much power is used for the internet? Should we get rid of that? Like, I mean, it's mind blowing how dumb and short sighted these arguments are.
It
But
is.
yeah.
I want to give one more argument, which I gave last time, but just for listeners who maybe didn't see the other episode, is electricity usage needs to be controlled and monitored from the source, not the end product. So the miner doesn't need to be monitored. That, by using that logic that people say crypto mining is bad for the environment, you could say a Tesla, an electric car, is bad for the environment if you're using energy from a coal burning power plant. And so we need to change the way that we create electricity and have hydro and solar and wind, because that will change everything. So it doesn't matter how green a Bitcoin miner is. If it's coming from fossil fuels, it's not going to be green. So that has nothing to do with Bitcoin and nothing to do with crypto. And nobody talks about that.
No, not at all. Well, look, Elon Musk didn't talk about it in any of his tweets, that his gigawatt factory that he moved it out of California because he didn't want to pay taxes or pay his employees or whatever his crybaby billionaire bullshit was. He moved it to Texas for a tax break, and he has a gigawatt factory. And oh, by the way, Elon, I guess, just missed the fact that 19% of Texas's energy is from coal-powered power plants.
Exactly.
Is he going to shut down shut down his factory?
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. So you could have a Nissan Leaf and it would be not an energy efficient car if you're using that coal powered plant. So it's a way for them to shift the blame onto individuals instead of the government saying, hey, we need to clean up our mess and get rid of these coal power plants and regulate the environmental industries and the energy industries. There's a huge history in the US of avoiding regulating the dirty fuel energies because there's so much money from that.
Yeah, it's insane. We are, I mean, every day is another insane day in America, listening to stuff like this. But in the long run, I haven't sold any of my Bitcoin, and the altcoins, I tell people that altcoins aren't the same and Bitcoin are not the same. Altcoins, in my opinion, and what I've heard and read, they're more like stocks or small businesses. Like you say, some of those projects could go out of business. They could, whatever, their doors can close. You can't do that with Bitcoin.
You can't shut down Bitcoin. It's the only truly decentralized
yes.
coin.
You can't.
The other coins are partially decentralized.
They're partially decentralized. Bitcoin, you can't arrest the CEO. You can't shut down the servers. You can't seize the Bitcoin. You can't.
There is no CEO. It's us. You and I are CEOs of Bitcoin.
Yeah. So what are you going to arrest the tens of millions of people that own Bitcoin? Like, yeah. So it is, and having been paying attention this last year, I feel like, I'm no longer a newbie. I'm like, just finished.
You're like kind of an expert, Graham.
I don't know if I would use that term, but I feel more knowledgeable about it for sure. But is more people seem to be paying attention, and more people are, and I think what's going to come out of this manipulation from Elon Musk and then Bill Maher and Liz Warren, and it's just coming on the heels of the Wall Street Bets thing with GameStop, as everyone's like, the kind of curtain's been pulled on everything, and way more people are going, it's bullshit, and they're not going to let the Elon Musks of the world manipulate Bitcoin as much, because every time it's dipped, there's been a buy and it's bounced off the dip. Like all these people are buy in at these lower prices. And yeah, I haven't sold any, and my plan is when these altcoins go up, I'm going to cash out and buy property on my altcoins and keep my Bitcoin for the long haul.
Yeah, I think the altcoins do have a really good use case. You know, I am bullish on a lot of altcoins. The most important thing is that the altcoin has a use case. So again, hashtag not financial advice, but some of these altcoins like Rocket and other ones, they have no use case. So what that means is there's really no purpose for them. They're just like a silly coin someone invented. But coins like Cardano, which and Tezos, which is a smart contract technology, you know, they're looking to actually create something new. And I think it's really amazing. You know, I know you mentioned that they're kind of like stocks, because if you are a normal person like you and me, and you're not worth millions, you don't pass what's called the accredited investor test. And so you're not allowed to get into a lot of early stage stocks. And again, you're allowed to gamble all of your money away. You're allowed to go to the casino. You're allowed to buy lottery tickets, but you're not allowed to invest in an asset that could grow. And the thing with these altcoins is that's what you're doing. You're getting because the SEC and the government didn't really understand what they were. They didn't regulate them quite as harshly yet. And so the average person like you and me has a chance to get into a technology that's a new technology that could be, you know, the next big thing. And so I think that's really amazing. And one of the amazing things about crypto is that you're not being, basically this accredited investor law is very, very corrupt. And it's how the rich get super rich and the rich get richer, because they're allowed access to these special deals where the average person is not.
Yeah. And that's really, you see that piece of critical information is what, to me at least, reveals why these banks and these politicians, they don't want regular people to have financial power. They want us barely getting by, credit card debt.
You're not going to vote if you're stressed out of your mind, paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. Or you'll vote for, if you're probably not going to vote and they want low voter turnout. Or if you do vote, you're too busy you only have time to watch a little bit of the corporate media. Because to get real information, you have to dig through it. You have to go to the alternative media. You got to come to shows like this and all these crypto shows you and I talk about. You have to dig through that. And if you're busy, barely getting by, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have rent, you have food, you're going to watch 20 minutes of headline news or Fox or CNN and go, all right, and see something on.
I guess it's bad for the environment.
Yeah, Liz Warren said it's bad, so I guess we're not going to buy Bitcoin. I'll just keep giving my money to the banks and earn, 0.5% in interest or whatever.
And they use that money for war. They actually use the U.S. dollar is actually a blood money.
Yeah, it pays for blood money when we don't have healthcare. We always got money for war, but we can't seem to figure out how we're going to pay for all of these things.
We're funding the Israeli military while they, bomb innocent civilians, but we absolutely have no money if you have a headache or you're pregnant or you have a cut on your finger.
No, we got no money for that.
It's hilarious, but it's so sad.
It's insane. I mean, it sounds crazy when you say it out loud. Like, did you lose your job because of COVID and you're living on the street or in your car? Sorry, we got no money for that. But we got a new F-35 bomber. It's amazing. We can drop more bombs. We can blow the world up 50 times over now, which is so great. I'm so glad
we have drone bombs.
Drone bombs, robot. Remotely. It's great. Robot drone bombs, which is fun. Yeah, you can't afford to get sick, but we've got robot drone bombs. So, well,
it sounds like a dystopian stand-up routine.
It is. I mean, it is. The fucking Terminator Comedy Club, the Skynet Laugh Club or whatever. Like, oh my God, it's brutal. So, But yeah, it is seeing what El Salvador did to kind of bring it full circle before you go here. Lets me go, oh, so for every one of these Elon Musk, Liz Warren, Bill Maher nonsense, they can try all they want, but if El Salvador makes it, and then all of Central America and and other countries are going to do it, America is going to be the last one to do it because we're part of this banking mob, but all these other countries are going to do it. Someone like New Zealand or somebody's going to go, yep, here, and what's going to happen? Big businesses are going to go there. Like people are going to go, well, I'm going to go down there. Like, I mean, I can do this show anywhere. I can do this show anywhere in the world. And so I'll go to Costa
Rica. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'll go to Costa Rica, and then my Bitcoin's doing well down there, and the cost of living is cheap, and there's healthcare, and I could build a little TV movie studio. We could do a bunch of cool movies and TV shows in Costa Rica using our cryptocurrency to finance it, and then we don't have to deal with any of these corrupt Harvey Weinstein pedophile fuckheads in Hollywood.
It's actually really sad that some of these really underdeveloped countries have healthcare and we don't.
Yeah,
it's so
I know.
Sad.
When people are like, America's the greatest country in the world, I'm always like, at what? What are we so great at? Like, where are we great? Because we're only good in the bad. We're not number one in education. We're not we're not the greatest. I don't know what you think. What is your definition of great? Just like a McDonald's value meal? Like, we got the biggest sodas. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Monster trucks and morbid obesity. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like,
I think America has a lot of amazing people, but we're being misled by our government. So
absolutely.
I think the American people have a very good spirit, which and I think the American people have a lot of soul, but I think that the policies that the US government pushes is unfortunately very, very repressive and restrictive. And I think it's very sad because I think there's a lot of awesome Americans that are very smart and intelligent, and a lot of people are tired of this stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is like people are realizing we've all been lied to, and we're not the greatest country in the world. And we could be, yes. America could be this amazing country that's like no homeless, free healthcare, free college, smart, innovative people. We're leading the world in innovation and technology. We're leading the world in peace. Like, we should be the country we want to be. We think we are. Like, we go around and like there's a dictator and we go, no, you don't get to do that. Sorry, your people get freedom. Instead, our CIA deposes the democratically elected
dictators in.
And puts a dictator in there, because the dictator will give us their oil or resources or put a military base there or whatever. So it's like, we got to hope that Americans just keep waking up. And I have way more faith in the millennials and Gen Z, because they are, actively they weren't fed the traditional media the way our generation or older generation was. I mean, it's hard. I hate to say it, but it's hard for me to talk to some Gen Xers, because I'm just like, oh, they think Obama was great or whatever. And I'm just like, you guys don't pay attention. You just watch a half hour of MSNBC or CNN and think you know what you're talking about, and you don't.
It's really sad. But I really think that El Salvador doing what they're doing is going to, I said it a couple times in this podcast, but I think that the dominoes are going to fall, because it just takes one country to take it really seriously. And I think it's going to be the developing countries, because they have weak currencies and they have actually the most to gain. America actually doesn't have that much to gain. We have a lot to lose. And I'm not saying we as me personally, I'm saying we as in our government system, because we're so tied to Wall Street. We're so tied to the traditional banking system. We're so tied to the International Monetary Fund and the central banks and the European central banks and everything like that. So I think that America is going to be very resistant of crypto adoption, whereas some of these developing countries, they're tired. They're tired of being America's slave. They're tired of being indentured servitudes to the American financial system, to the central banking system of Europe and the US. And so they actually have the most to gain by adopting crypto and Bitcoin. And so I think we're going to see a lot of adoption in developing countries, because they're like, hey, we're done. We're done with the USD. We're done with the petrodollar.
I think we're going to see, I totally agree. They have the most to gain, and it's why Bitcoin, the white paper was so revolutionary, because it saw all this. It saw the evils of the central banks and countries like America, specifically America, that is just strangling the world. And, every 10 to 15 years, we have to have a financial collapse. What a horrible system is that? Who said, and everyone's like, capitalism is great. Really? It has a built-in collapse in it? Wow. That seems pretty awful.
It has a built-in collapse so that the central bankers can print more money and redistribute that wealth to the rich. So the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Graham, hello, you're not paying attention.
USA, USA. So I'm hoping that I agree too. When I heard about this 2 days ago about El Salvador, I was like, and all of these countries fall suit, there could be this renaissance in Central and South America, and you're going to start to see. I mean, there was an African country that's talking about using it. I think
Nigeria was talking about using it. Yeah.
And I think that's the fact that El Salvador just did it. It's stamped, it's done, and it's going into effect in less than 3 months. These other countries are going to, and a couple years from now, you're going to have 10, 20, 30% of the world saying Bitcoin's our reserve currency, and America's going to be fumbling around with the Republican and Democrat morons.
You don't want our war money anymore?
Yeah. I know. We're going to be standing along going, come on, we're going to try to threaten you. And we're going to go, no, you're not.
We're on Bitcoin now.
Sorry. What are you going to do? What are you going to take away from us?
Exactly.
It's like if you tell someone you're not working there anymore and they're like, I'm going to fire you. And I said, I already told you I'm quitting at the end of the week. So what are you going to do?
I think it's going to be really amazing, Graham. And I'm really excited. I'm really proud of the president of El Salvador. And I'm very disappointed in the mainstream media. Nobody has covered this story. Nobody. I found out on Twitter. Nobody has covered the story. And that is crazy. A country just said that they were taking an alternative form of currency that was just invented 10 years ago as their reserve currency, or not a reserve currency, but as a legal tender. And nobody has covered it.
Nobody. It's insane. Well, Rosie, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show tonight. Tell everybody where they can follow you, and you've got your podcasts and all that stuff.
I do. I have an awesome podcast called Out of the Box. I'm newly to Rockfin, and thanks to Graham, I have a couple followers, but I would love for you guys to follow me on Rockfin. I'm Rosie Tran, Tran, at Rockfin, on Rockfin, and on Instagram, I'm Out of the Box Rosie. But most of my comedy and out of the box stuff, and my podcast is not a political podcast, but I interview all out of the box thinkers, so alternative thinkers, people in finance, religion, science, anyone who has a different way of thinking. And just because I have someone on my podcast doesn't mean I agree with them, but I just like bringing a different point of view so that people can hear something that's not the mainstream, nonsense.
Folks, it's another reason to sign up at Rockfin, because if you do the Rockfin Premium, you're not only getting my premium, but you're getting Rosie's and Jimmy Dore and Abby Martin and Whitney Webb and on, all these great people. You're supporting blockchain. It's blockchain. They pay us in cryptocurrency. And you're also saying no to part of the central banking and the corporate media. Google, which owns YouTube, is a part of that. I'm in my 4th month of being demonetized. I have a copyright strike against me for a video I did a year ago. They've pulled videos of mine recently where I just said Bill Gates should release the COVID vaccine patent to third world countries because he doesn't want to do that because he's a rich asshole. That was called medical misinformation. So that's another reason to support Rockfin and crypto, and get involved and learn and become knowledgeable about crypto, because it empowers you against all of these big institutions that are throttling us, censoring us, lying to us, propagandizing us. And so Rockfin is a great place to start.
I do not support YouTube as well. I have a comedy account, which is my big account. And then I just started putting my podcast on YouTube, and they said I didn't have enough followers to monetize me, which is fine. But then they started putting ads on my videos. So they're collecting money on my videos, but I'm not.
Yep. That's what they're doing to me. And I used to tell my audience, don't click skip ad because I don't get paid. Now skip the ads. Don't watch the videos. Don't watch it.
So they're saying Graham Elwood's videos are too offensive to monetize, and my videos are too small to monetize, yet they're monetizing them.
Yes, somebody's making money, but not us for our content.
So please go on Rockfin.
Yeah, go to Rockfin, where they actually pay content creators for your content. It's crazy. It's an insane concept.
No, they're communist.
They're dirty communists over
Dirty
at
commies.
Rockfin.
Paying people for the work they created? I don't think so, Graham.
Oh, it sounds gross. Paying people for what they're worth. Ugh, gross. Well, Rosie, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always great to have you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Graham.
All right, bye-bye. Rosie Tran, everybody. Oh, it's always great having her on the show. Thank you so much. Let me read the Rockfin. Great way to support the show is go to rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. And thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.